Without further ado, we'll get started, and I will introduce you to Juan Choi. Time comes to a standstill in the space around her poems. They have the effect of focused meditation, place readers in the center of their bodies, and create space for deep consideration of how life presses against us every day and how we persevere. At the same time, they can be so funny. Our speaker is approachable, friendly, even self-deprecating, but somehow capable of a wide vision that transcends its immediate circumstances and includes everyone, whether they're listening or not. Her poems address urgent political issues of the past and present, asking in one poem, titled Jim Crow Appears as the Monkey God, are we really worthy of all this committed destruction? The answer, of course, is no, but the example illustrates Juwan's unique ability to distill the complexity of human behavior and experience into something that helps us see better and better. She's a poet who struggles to identify and name emotions that remain unnamed and unrevealed from childhood experiences and traumas in order to become the fully actualized human she knows she can be. Choi is the author of One Daughter is Worth 10 Sons and I Used to Be Korean, and her third poetry collection, A Temporary Dwelling, was published this June. Spite and Dival, right? June 2024. She started her community garden's first poetry reading series, Poets Read in the Garden, to support local writers during the early COVID years, and she's also co-editor at Hanging Loose Press. This is Juwan Choi.
Thank you so much. Maybe you can write my next blurb. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much, Bryant Park reading series. Thank you, Joan Larkin, for recommending me to be on this roster, fantastic roster. I'm going to read a quick poem by Joan Larkin from her Blue Hanuman, just to start us off. I chose this one because I'm trying to cut down on my chicken intake. Chicken, who twisted her neck, scorched her pin feathers, slung her in slow circles around the head, to be rid of sin. And who made sin? Mr. God in his stained apron, tight suit, hat out of time, bird shit in the crease of his shoe. Who kept her till the day? Salted her, bled her, dumped her on a truck, let poor eat poor. Can't look me in the eye and not think filthy hole, for I'm a dirty bird no wire cage can save. Now, it's probably foolhardy for me to start with a poem by Joan Larkin, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to read some poems from my latest book, A Temporary Dwelling. Came out in June. I also have to say I do organize readings in a garden on Flatbush Avenue, so this is very idyllic in comparison. Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn, I mean. A temporary dwelling. Does the spider who hitches a ride on our rental car in front of the rental toilet, adjacent the hiking trail, know she is on a car and not a dinosaur? She has discovered new territory and must recalibrate how to proceed. Not so the warbler crashed into the glass door of our rented house in the woods, ending her calculation here with wings the color of ferns that flicker and beckon, bluffside, forever suspended in last flight. In our world of perfect time, she found a way to stop it. Also, there's going to be a lot of birds migrating through our city, and I know we're going to find some dead birds along the way. If you do happen to see a bird on the sidewalk, pick it up gently and take it to the Wild Bird Fund. Here's the Mississippi. You grew up not knowing about oceans, satisfied with what came out of the faucet. Water beyond does not occur to you. Water a billion years old, dripping down the caves of Johannesburg, maybe from Mars. The search for life in the rocks will stop when they find the fossil remains of us, saying we are predominantly salt and not much more than single-cell organisms. And here's the Mississippi, going back to the beginning, so get your house out of the way. Contemplate mountains, Greene County, New York. Spiders have taken all night to spin webs in the middle of this rough road. We are not their first choice, but get snared just the same. When I stumble over rocks, it is how I contemplate mountains, churning and shrugging off boulders as blithely as a tree would shake off leaves. The land changing its mind, shifting, keeps shifting, in witness of creatures made to resemble lichen and moss, inertia as action. As the eastern bluebirds escape their fossil identities to summon winds from the east, the north, and the sea, worthy muses breathing into us the light of the world. I love spiders. I recently learned that if you find a spider in the house, you shouldn't bring it outside because it was born in your house and probably won't do very well outside. The world in a jar. Remember those kids in Sunset Park? Missionaries, Mormon white shirts, trying to convert the masses. In this case, old Chinese women pulling their carts laden with persimmon, the globes of purple grapes. Their perfect Cantonese beguiling, especially when they get to the part about being reborn on your own planet. Sure, dedicate the whole day, the whole year, eating as many grapes as you can. No one will yell at you when you spit out all the seeds all over the galaxies. Why, what a vision. Millions of vines hanging and grapes ready for the plucking, just as God intended. Woe begone in the gourmet deli across the street from Lincoln Center. Missing some upfront teeth, in a stained, possibly London fog, Burberry, still don't know the difference, raincoat, her hair never looks washed, orders the same $2 worth of curry chicken salad and 2 slices of prosciutto, denouement with a slab of key lime pie. All the days we're behind the counter snickering and disgusted, but afraid. We do and don't know. We will end up the same. We are the front of the house, but should be in the back. The whispers are that she's an heiress gone mad. Looney Tunes on Columbus Avenue. There was a woman that would come into that deli. I worked there when I was in college. I don't know if she really was an heiress, but I hope she was. The moth in your kitchen. Could be your mother, come back to see you. Your mother who died last year in the hospital, where you asked the doctor to send you a picture of her, and he did send a picture. You cannot show anyone for the horror of it. Like in the Werner Herzog movie, when he warns the lady not to listen to the recording of the grizzly man and his girlfriend being eaten alive by a bear. But what if the mosquito you just smacked against your leg at the cemetery in between looking and listening for birds by the dell was really your mother? Some god's bad joke about karma. But really, she must have been the blue heron, suddenly seen up to her knees and bill in the water, stabbing at fish. So in your head, the conversation goes, pardon me, by chance, are you the reincarnation of my mother, a tall woman who married a short dentist? But you don't feel anything. You who believe in signs, who looks for signs, who dreams in signs. She is the sign, isn't she? Beautiful forever. Hooked up to a machine to make you breathe for a month. This is how delicate you became, how transparent your skin, stretched to invisibility. Your dark blue veins traveling above ground. Arteries of water on landmass. You became a map. Kill the bitch, and you eliminate the litter. Pinochet, are you saying it will take decades for us to get out of the pumpkin patch, if ever? You got to go home, ailing from years of counting all those fingernails pulled off dissidents, students and teachers, farmers really, children of the revolution who didn't agree with your economics of one-man rule, and 300% inflation. It's hard to agree, isn't it? It's a wonder bread gets buttered, even on the one side. You didn't want to argue about why ketchup on hot dogs was a moral trespass. So rather, you put everyone in a stadium. Disappearing the contradictions was your specialty. And here come the men in suits to put quarters in the everlasting cycle of dirty cash called international banking, while all you can do is be a carcass plugged full of dirt and worms, while all I can do is keep looking for skillet chicken recipes online. I wrote this poem before I was gonna eat less chicken. It's really hard to eat less chicken, but I'm doing a good job. It just means I eat more potato chips. Beautiful Mutant. In Rochester of 1992, after a dinner of spaghetti and red sauce, we went to a bar where I became a pygmy under glass, where I was made to Oda Benga myself into a beautiful mutant. No rope was thrown to capture me. I was simply surrounded by men who frequent bars in gangs, in groups, in mobs, to make a point about ownership. Oh, to be a beautiful mutant in America, among the wilted people stuck in their time, like the girl in Little Rock, whose face is frozen in forever, but still twitching hate. Her digitized face will outlast the pharaohs. Not even time erases rage lines or reconciles the angry gash as mouth. How much she must have loved walking down this pansy path of entitlement in an incidental town where she learned to gloat about birthright. In a town that didn't understand separate water fountains is a dick move. Oh, tattered town, dick town of America, you serve the weakest red sauce. You'd think it was pink, the side of the Mason-Dixon. Not everyone knows how to make tomato sauce, apparently. There are reasons for never leaving New York City. But I shouldn't be a snob. Everyone has their own recipe on how to do stuff. I will read a poem from my second book, I Used to Be Korean, published by Hanging Loose Press. This is a poem I write a lot about the past, but I specifically think a lot about my high school years. I spent a lot of time on Rockaway Beach, Neponset to be precise. Rockaway Diary, 1986. Your Father in heaven, Bela Lugosi incarnate, all forehead, leering around corners, lingering under the stairway. His penchant for culverts puts him in the order of miscreant. Mother coffee teeth. Clutching her once white mug, right on cue, 6 a.m., she begins her search for the milk. Will she remember to look behind the pickles and Sunny D? Olivia's boyfriend. Goatee, almost 30. He's known her since she was 8. Takes notice now that she's a head taller than him. No one is appalled. Your pa's dead, and Ma's on the couch again. Sandbar. I like to tell how we were nearly lost at sea, forgetting that Poseidon must not be trusted. He will catch you up in his folds of bleak water, and the shape-shifting sand meant to fool us into thinking it's sand, but no, it's not. On the lifeguard chair. Your wild heart crashing into me like the sea. I am drowning in your Irish promise. Wild thistle. You grow where not can, cracking through rock to reach the sun. When did you become that craggy old man pushing to the counter to order your coffee and 2 eggs on a roll? Thank you so much.
That said, our next poet is really fabulous, Joan Larkin. You know, how do we make sense of memory? Is it there to teach us lessons, to torture us, to help us practice gratitude? It doesn't seem to matter, because while you're busy making sense of standing memories, you're throwing new ones on the pile at an exponential rate. A poet like Joan Larkin helps us to solve this problem. She distills memory into beautiful, thoughtful, humble poems that extract the essence, the indescribable meaning but understanding feelings of the past. She paints vivid, cinematic pictures and doesn't attempt to saturate us with insight, which makes her insights so much more valuable, poem by poem. She helps us see the present as the past, and as such live our lives more fully in every falling moment, however fraught, confusing, or filled with love, as part of a whole. Best to say she writes the present as well as she does the past, in a mode that doesn't really distinguish between the two, giving them the same considered attention. We understand our own lives and the lives of others better by experiencing Joan Larkin's poetry. Joan's 6th book of poems is Old Stranger, just out from Alice James Books. Her previous work includes Blue Hanuman, My Body, New and Selected Poems, which received the Publishing Triangle's Audre Lorde Award, and Lambda Literary Award winner Cold River. With Jaime Manrique, Larkin translated Sor Juana's love poems, a bilingual edition of Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz's poetry. Her prose works include If You Want What We Have, Sponsorship, Meditations, and Glad Day, daily meditations for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. A lifelong teacher, she served on the faculties of Brooklyn College, Sarah Lawrence College, and Smith College, among others. Larkin has been awarded fellowships from the Academy of American Poets, the NEA, and the New York Foundation for the Arts. She received the 2011 Shirley Memorial Award from the Poetry Society of America. Here's Joan Larkin.
Thanks, John. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that introduction. And Juwan, thank you for your rendition of that chicken. I'm abashed. I didn't bring anybody else's poems to read, just mine. But I'm going to read a couple of poems from my body, and maybe something from Blue Hanuman, and then read from the new book. Okay. Oh, and thanks everybody for coming. Mike Evans. People showed up. Except for the ones who suddenly got COVID this week, so I hope everybody's getting their boosters. A garden. We were planting in black earth the last night of my life. Death was scheduled for morning. I was happy planting lilacs now. She wondered, too many? And I laughed. It was rich. I said, you never can have enough lilacs. Look at New England. I dug on the low roof. This one would spill downward. The dream, November, was drenched lilac. Life was this plenty. Earth, lilacs, the woman next to me planting. I hardly felt any fear this morning, shaking. The offering. When they cleaned you and gave you to me, long legs and fingers, red glow rising from creased flesh, eyes already awake, gaze steady. I shook for 3 days in my knot of hospital sheets. Tears came later, cries, fears, fierce holding, the ways you'd shake me off, your well of rage. Over and over, you bloomed in your separate knowledge. Yesterday, you offered tender words. I remembered gorging on teglach Fanny made, thick knots of dough shining with honey. I'm filled and wanting more, only to taste that heavy gold on my tongue again. So teglach is something I haven't had for years, and I don't think your dentist wants you to try it, but it's so good. Oh, it's so good. Okay, do I have anything from, yeah. So, somebody who should know better asked me yesterday, well, what themes do you think about when you're going to write? And I said, I'm not thinking about themes, thinking about an image or a word, and I don't know where it's going to take me. But then later, you look back at your own work, I look back at my own work, and I say, oh, there are some obsessions here, or some scenes that I keep revisiting. And one of them is family, of course, and one of them is art. And I want to try to include a little joy and lots of women. But this one is about one of my early encounters with art. And the word life in this poem refers to Life magazine, which at some point in my childhood apparently did a spread on Picasso. And my brother cut out one of the picture pages and hung it on the wall. Eye of Newt. I was larval. I dreamed myself downstairs in PJs, still in my coma. Bach, he said, and I lay next to the radio. Dark amber spread through my girl brain. Eye of Newt already nestled there, an egg glued to a twig. My pale, bespectacled brother set me on a leaf and watched me fatten. Franz Kafka, he said, and my new long feelers brushed the wall. Girl before a mirror was tacked there, torn from life. Her twin pear belly, warm pink as my own. Half curled, half crawling, I burst through skin after skin. Art, I said, and my wings fanned slowly open. So, I have a new book. It just came out. So, I'm reading from it in public for the first time. So, well, I mentioned Fanny, the maker of the teglach. So I think I'll read Fanny. And the title goes into the first line. Fanny praised God, Aleph by Aleph, on the one page of her one book, signed her citizenship with X, pressed wells into dough with the heel of her hand, oil and salt her elements, well of onions her bread signature, she herself a well, 9 bodies from one, stood into her 70s, Oxfords, elastic stockings, satiny girdle to hold flesh in place. Just now I saw her in my mirror, worn teeth and claws, old country eyes. Or did some stranger look at me with mercy, her wind-bent beach chair planted in rocks? So there are many poems in this book that were inspired by images of women, lives of women, chance encounters with women, and this is called At 24th and 10th, and I meant 24th Street and 10th Avenue in Manhattan, where I was staying for some reason. I don't even remember why, in a friend's upscale co-op in Chelsea, and I walked out towards 10th Avenue to find a deli, and this poem resulted. At 24th and 10th, I heard her over the seething river of cars, and her terrible soft whine willed me to turn back in the dark. She wore no sign. Neither of us spoke. Willing, unwilling, my hand reached, and I saw her eyes, her open mouth, the shroud she stood wrapped in at the curb, her cupped hand steady in November wind that was shaking a scaffold. This is called 1961. What was I doing looking for help in the phone book? Then walking up Prospect to the doctor's polished boat of a desk. That face the color of thin milk. I needed a diaphragm. Unmarried. His steel-rimmed glasses glinted. His satisfied look was a cat's. If I thought about anything then, it was how to make $5 feed us for a week, how to soak kidneys in vinegar to dry out smell. They had a bluish undertone, like the alizarin crimson Robert squeezed onto his palette to paint the thrift store wine glass. 39 cents a pound, relief from tamale pie. Whatever he thought, he ate it and went back to his painting. The pregnancy lasted a few weeks past the wedding. What's still with me? The shape of the doctor's mouth made in that dim office. Disgust. Nothing could leach it out of me. I'm still breathing its faint, unmistakable odor. I think I'll read My Father's Tie Rack. Back of the door to his dark closet, eye height, with clever steel pegs I could flip both ways, a row of pendulums, of tongues, words wordless, witnesses waiting to be sworn, the town's secret, a silk body, a man's plenty, a wild ache, a knot, one painted with gold mums, one with blood leaves on mud, Vishnu's skin, 20 shades of sky, white flag iris, slick sheen of a green-black snake. Which one went with him into the hole? Somewhere else, his belts. This is the title poem, Old Stranger. When my lost carbon steel knife turned up, as if it had never left the drawer. Dark haft, trio of nickel-silver rivets like moons of Pluto, thin blades stained as before. I breathed, spoke to the empty room, reached for the old stranger, touched its whetted edge. Alive, it could change tomatoes to glistening discs, basil to little hills, draw blood from meat. It raked joy onto my plate, while the gauze that wrapped my cut reddened. You know, carbon steel, you can sharpen it to the thinness of a razor blade. It's really much better than that stainless shit. Anyway, I don't know how long I've been reading, but I'll read a couple more. I want to read this one because it ends with a feeling of gratitude. One fragment of 1980. I knew some of the women standing in a ragged circle, passing a lit joint pinched between thumb and finger, watched it pass, their bursts of laughter, small explosions in my solar plexus, pressed my sweating glass to my cheek, confused by the close dance I'd had with a woman whose drunk girlfriend watched, smiling and smoking. I studied a patch of sun on the floor. Weed smell filled the room. Don't you hate it? Thin, dark Linda next to me had seen my face. She joked about not knowing names for feelings. Mad, glad, sad. Weren't there 4? Scared shitless, I offered. I didn't say grateful. Didn't guess until the party and her name came back to me tonight how much I owed, still owe, that shred of smiling talk. So, I'm going to read 2 more. This is called Lavished. And it's dedicated to the painter Wayne Thiebaud. And if you know his work, it's everything you've always wanted in the bakery case at the deli, painted very realistically. Lavished. I'm hungry for it. Your double scoop of thick impasto on a scored cake cup stands downstage center, spotlit against flag blue, blameless. Even the shelf it sits on is slathered in edible pinkish milk chocolate paint. I'm hungry, and the bottom scoop is melting as the dangerously tilted top scoop defies Newton. The cherry glows like a lit button on a console. The whole treat is about to fall, but your squeezed pigment wants to feed me, and my eyes eat. And this is the last poem, and the last poem in the book. No, it's not the last poem in the book. How do you like that? I should read my own book more often. White Pine. Walking to the studio, cane printing the dirt. I see you rising from a thicket, ragged ferns at your foot, deep grooves in your bark, around you a cloud of needles. High on your trunk, 2 moons like scars of sheared off breasts, where the chainsaw whined and sap oozed from the wound. Below them a dark, articulate slit, dead and living in one body. Your cones open in warm air, give winged seeds to the wind, enough for a forest. Death poem, wait. Joan, keep walking. Thank you.
Our next poet is, to put it mildly, really one of the most important and enduring poets of the last 60 years. She's a boundary breaker in every sense. It challenged the male-dominated superstructure in American letters, made it uncomfortable. She never swerved, and over decades has written some of the most beautiful and painful poems in our literature. It makes sense that Alicia is also an artist because her poems are, in a way, beautifully drawn, rich with image and detail, full of ideas that are also carefully drawn out, thought out, and explored, that are important not only for their challenge of the status quo, but for their exquisite craftsmanship and enduring sense of humanity and even spirituality. A committed feminist, she helped normalize the idea that a woman could be devoted to her children, but also to her career. And she did so not merely by example, but by exploring this dynamic and striking poems that help lay the groundwork for a paradigm shift in our culture. So many poets I've spoken to have been so deeply influenced by her. They've used her as both a model and a sort of spiritual guide, and so we're beyond lucky to have a chance to hear from her today in Bryant Park. Alicia, let me read this bio here. Has published 19 collections of poetry, been twice nominated for the National Book Award, and has twice received the National Jewish Book Award for Poetry, among other honors. As a critic, she is the author of the now classic Stealing the Language, The Emergence of Women's Poetry in America, and other books on poetry and on the Bible. Her most recent collections of poems are Waiting for the Light and The Volcano, and After, selected in New Poems 2002 to 2019. She was New York State Poet Laureate and a Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. She was born in Brooklyn and now lives in the Upper West Side of what the Lenape people and Walt Whitman called Manhattan. Here's Alicia Ostriker.
Who is this person? Thank you, John. Can I have a copy of that? Well, it is beautiful to be here on a night like this. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and sister poets, thank you both for your glorious voices. I'm going to read a little bit from Waiting for the Light, an older book that I started writing when I moved back to New York City after living in Princeton, which is a very nice place, for 50 years. But New York City is where I was born and bred. Can take the girl out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the girl. So I'll read a few poems from this book, which I started writing by just walking around the Upper West Side neighborhood where I was now planted. August morning, Upper Broadway. As the body of the beloved is a window through which we behold the blackness and vastness of space pulsing with stars, and as the man on the corner with his fruit stand is a window, and the cherries, the blackberries, raspberries, avocados, and carrots are a rose window like the one in Chartres, yes, or the one in Paris, through which light floods from the other world, the pure one, stabbing tourists with malicious, abundant joy. Though the man is tired in the summer heat and reads his newspaper listlessly, without passion, and people pass his stand buying nothing, let us call this scene a window looking out not at a paradise, but as a paradise might be if we had eyes to see. The women in their swaying dresses, the season's fruit, the babies in their strollers infinitely soft, clear window after clear window. And I've been noticing this summer that dresses and skirts are back. Does anybody notice that? You know, I mean, pants are the norm in New York, but I saw a lot of dresses and long dresses. So I liked that poem. It was the first poem I wrote coming back to the Upper West Side. And then I thought, well, this is very lyrical, but there's something missing from it. So then I wrote about what was missing from it. It was something about energy, the light. What is the birthplace of the light that stabs me with joy? And what is the difference between avocados sold on the street by a young man conceived in Delhi and avocados sold in the West Side Market by cornrow girls? I am anyhow afloat in tides of Puerto Rican, Cuban, Mexican, West Indian Spanish, wavelets of Urdu, swelling like oceans, sweating like jackhammers, rasping like crows, calling out in the West Side Market, the Rite Aid, and every other shop on the street. ¿Por qué no comprendes? You don't own the city anymore. The city belongs and has always belonged to its shoals of exiles, crashing ashore in foaming, salty droplets. Como no, Granita, with their dances and their grandmothers, with their drinking and their violence, and their burning yearning for dignity and smelling money. What is the joy? Is it those lamps of light, those babies in their strollers? Those avocados with their dark green pebbled rinds shining from inside? $2 to $4 in the West Side Market and $3 for $4 from the cart? Joy, like white light between the dollar bills. Is it those volleys of light fired by ancestors who remember tenements, the sweatshops, the war, who supposed their children's children would be rich and free? So it was that, when I came back, it wasn't exactly the same as it had been when I left. And on West End Avenue, everybody was Jewish, still, some. But up on Broadway, you heard nothing but Spanish. And that stopped me for a while until I realized it was just all the same as it was. This tide of immigrants, that tide of immigrants, all the same. And then I felt comfortable. Okay, and here's just one more about New York. Manhattan. I was asking for something specific and perfect for my city, says Walt, lover of crowds, praiser of trades and occupations, celebrant of the daily tide of immigrants. And I, too, seek the perfect image of you. You mothering harbor, you royal sewer, you finger inside the sky, you dangling dream deferred, you queer hideout, you incubator of Jewish jazz, you who exist as a landing field for helicopters, you whose laughter is heartless. You digest dudes who crave to be big shots, celebrities, hedge fund managers, who like to show off and be bad, who get a kick from champagne. I am looking for a toaster in the hardware store. And here, two women stand behind a counter, minding their cash registers in their red apron uniforms. A points to B and says, "You know what she did Saturday? She went skinny dipping." I have to wonder where. B looks pleased with herself. The Harlem River. Really? It's where show-off boys used to dive, and we giggling girls used to just watch those bad boys. Times do change. B says, I have to let my bad girl out sometimes. So that's Waiting for the Light. I think there may be some copies of that here. Now I want to read from the book that will be coming out, the new book, and this is my first reading from it. So if I mess up, forgive me fast. It will be coming out from Alice James, and it's called The Holy and Broken Bliss, Poems in Plague Time. So this was basically written between 2020 and 2022. And what's meant by plague in the title is, first of all, it's poems about getting old and the approach of you-know-what. And about the COVID plague, and about the illness of the body politic that was going on all at the same time. So where am I? Okay. And there's a kind of prefatory poem called These Be the Words, which is lifted from Deuteronomy. The words of an old woman, shuffling the cards of her own decline, the decline of her husband, the decline of her nation, her plague-smitten world. All these realities, cages from which there is no escape, virus that has slain its millions, rage and despair driving the body politic into violent writhings, knotted upheavings, drama I watch from the wings. As I tell myself, these too are the wings of the Shekhinah between which I rise and shower, dress in the morning, undress at night in my house of many doors, many windows, little sky. Song reversed to clanging. Alarm! Alarm! Write if you can find words, I tell myself. Write what you are afraid to write. Lay down your cards, step over the lintel, through that door. Write or die. Now that write or die, I have to say, I lifted from HD. And whoever has not read HD, go and read her, because that's something that she writes in her last book of poems, and she's invoking the muse. Write or die. So, time. Time is like a twisted arm. My husband is sleeping more hours, walking much more slowly. Slowly. He goes down the stone steps from the apartment building to Riverside Park, holding the rail, holding his balance. The summer vegetation riots and rots around his sandaled feet. Slowly. The image of a man walking slowly down a set of stone stairs recurs in my dreams, has recurred in my dreams for 50 years. What it means, we all know. What they say, slowly they say. It is not a bridge, it is a rejoining, they say. They say it is a rejoining, not a bridge to imagined torments or cloudlets, but the slow return of our being to you, back along the path where we began, returning to you, like a child, tired of freedom, needing the smell of the mother. They say that. Demonstration in plague time. They call their region the flyover states. States of trash, cockroaches, despisals. Today they are demonstrating against vaccination. It's all about anger, isn't it? Anger and hurt beneath it. The disrespect. The disrespect hurts like anything. Halo of piquant mosquitoes humming. They are dying of the rank disrespect, dying of disease, drink and drugs, suicide. If anyone has arms long enough to reach past the anger, to embrace the hurt, that alligator in your belly, that repetitive mockery, if the magic of love exists anywhere, let us imagine a superhero president pulling it out of his sleeve, a rainbow scarf, a mitten from the cedar chest of a painful childhood. They say this is what Jesus did, simply reached out to the hurt, with arms like tree boughs, fingers like springtime petals. And another one about the state of the disunion. All that year. And this is for Cynthia Hope. We were body surfing a wave of public venom, attempting to swim. It was terrific, thrilling. Hate sprayed us on the left and on the right. We wondered, would it smash us into a reef? On screen, our swaggering leader, man we elected, loosed lies from his lips like eels. It was a good moment for cartoonists and journalists and billionaires and lovers of guns. A good moment for poets. Poets thrive on disaster, born as we are within the wound. Tachycardia. Tachycardia all day yesterday. Faint 8 a.m. By evening, a fast thud-thud, insistent as if someone is trying to tell me something in a language I don't know, the sign language of an entity that expresses itself in rhythm and is becoming impatient with my ignorance. We used to understand each other perfectly, or so I thought. I thought we were like sisters. Now it seems, for 80 years, she has labored nonstop, thump, thump, 24/7, without complaint. I have been like some plantation mistress, believing in my own benevolence, believing I and my personal house slave understand each other. Now, my heart is racing, as if to get away through the underground to freedom. Okay, and this is a poem about something I saw a video of, and you may have seen the video too. There were a lot of videos going around. Nocturne. A man sleeps in his car in the fast food parking lot. A cop knocks on his window. The man is passive as a peony, gets out of the car, hands over his papers without complaint, does the breathalyzer quietly, then the cop leans over the man's ear, begins to arrest him. Parking lights cast a pale gleam on the naked, speckled asphalt. The video camera stares. Suddenly, the man fights like a tiger, struggles free, runs, is shot, dies. We wonder, was it the handcuffs drove the man mad like that? Or something else? Can we guess what word the cop whispered in that black man's ear that night? And then in contrast, anything in motion. A small girl in the park runs ahead of her mother, skipping, jumping and giggling, looking back over her shoulder to make sure the mother is still there. Because what if she's gone? I like seeing her do this. The mother likes it. It makes the mother smile. The older brother also smiles because he loves her, I surmise. He is a sweet boy who truly loves her. The sky above the park parades some clouds. The family heads for the row of swings. I try to imagine them painted by Monet in one of his pastoral scenes. But Monet does not paint anything in motion. Happiness needs to express itself in motion. I don't have my camera with me. What I have is my eyes, my need to praise. Okay. Just a few more. Late winter in plague time. We permit ourselves a walk every day. We believe outdoors is safe. We remove our masks, and the trees in Riverside Park are so individual. The curved or abrupt swerves of their boughs appear to demonstrate free will, entwined with biology. So then one day, crossing the street to the park, something in the air, not wind, not fragrance, surges against my body like breakers from the row of leafless sycamores. What can it be? It must be the sap rising. Yes, today must be the day the sap begins to rise, exciting the trees so that their bodies emit waves of a chemical science cannot yet name, which my own body can sense even in the midst of winter, even in the midst of plague. The old woman reads Ecclesiastes and the Song of Songs. We quote from Ecclesiastes 12 and Song of Songs 2. Before the evil days come, when I will say I have no pleasure in them, and before the golden bowl, owl, old woman, they say, be broken. The wheel broken at my beloved is mine. I have 2 tasks, and I am his. Find truer language for the plague year, the Bardo year. Very like the Holland Tunnel, endless gray. Take my bulletproof vest off. Take it off. I mean, I wish I mean, I need to love with the love that is like milk before the pitcher shatters. Finally, I did so with my mother. Love flawed, flowed. I do it in moments with my man. Down the mountain we go, over the crumbling ice, gripping hard earth, not running, careful not to trip over a root or a rock and fall and break a leg bone or skull. Down the mountain we go slowly, limping slightly, fighting the fight in us, old eruptions of anger, envy, pride, or bliss, singing the song in us, they say, is stronger than death. Smoke help me, wine help me, Shekhinah help me to love without cause, without cease. Help me believe existence itself is bliss, broken, and we alone required to mend it. Just confession. Why? No, confession. When I chose him, he was the one, the quintessence of energy and wit. Sweetie, I say, stop making me laugh. When I laugh at my age, I have to pee. And you know my bladder is like a talkative old person. When they pause, you may think they are done, but not at all. And there was always the river rushing through blackness inside him. Ostinato. He was the one, the unpredictable, hairy monkey among the puppets, cheerful contrarian, perfecting his serve and his equations, and there was always the river rushing through blackness, guiding him. Some nights, before we fall asleep, he asks me to recite Prospero's "Our revels now are ended" speech. For I am his designated Shakespeare consultant. Other nights he reads Dickens to me, or Isaac Bashevis Singer, or David Hume, or Lao Tzu, while the light of 1 billion high redshift galaxies drives past our verdant planet, and our cream white bedroom walls curving and curving. And just one last poem and a coda. The force that sends light. May it find me. May it find my eyes, illuminate my mind, gladden my waning days. May the one who writes in the book of life inscribe my name among the poets. May I learn to read it. May my humble request for more light, more time be honored. And a coda. May my poems be shards of the holy and broken bliss that circles and shackles the earth. Thank you.